Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Han Solo is by far my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and that's because he tries really hard to stand for absolutely nothing. While other characters like Luke, Leia, or Anakin all quickly pledge allegiance to one faction or another, Han Solo has always been skeptical and hesitant to join any side at all. Not because he was a coward, but because he actually thought things out before joining a side. Han Solo understood that the galaxy was a complicated place. He knew that no organization was purely good or purely evil, and the individuals within those organizations oftentimes weren't even ideologically aligned with the factions they worked for. Han Solo became this way because of the crazy life he lived. From an early age, Han Solo understood that taking a side basically creates limitations in the long run on what you can do and who you can do things with. This man was a smuggler for most of his life after all, and before that a street urchin from the most wretched sewers of Cornet City in a hive of villainous Xeno activity. His tough upbringing made him understand that he needed to do business with everyone, whether it was the White Worms that he belonged to or one of the other gangs or street kids or even the Corellian or Imperial officers on the world. It's not that Han Solo liked the White Worms, he hated their leaders, but he also found love and friendship amongst the other street urchins. To him, it was the first family he knew, and yes, his relationship with the organization was complicated. Han Solo also didn't really have an opinion about the Empire. I mean, why would he? He would find out eventually that his personality didn't fit in with their rigid structure and fascist tendencies.
Solo, get up! We're almost there! Almost where? Where are we going?
He never let some ideology get in the way of him joining the Empire so that he could escape Corellia. Han Solo joined these factions in order to survive and make it to the next day, not because he wanted to believe in some crazy ideology. Now, Han might seem a lot less heroic for initially refusing to fight in the Battle of Yavin when compared to individuals like Luke and Leia, who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the heroic rebellion. But Princess Leia was born to a royal house that ruled an entire planet. Her life was full of privilege, excess, stability, and security. She had the luxury of a terrific education, and she partook in the Youth Legislative Council within the Galactic Empire. She was a part of an elite protected class in society that basically played games with everyone else's lives through the political system. And although she encountered many dangerous and colorful experiences before she was even an adult, ultimately Leia Organa was naive about the world because of her station in life. Her views on how things work for the average person came from either her protective parents or HoloNet drama she had seen. At the end of the day, when she came home, it was to many servants and velvet cushions and supreme luxury. She was never really one of the people. She saw herself as the protector of the people, and unfortunately, she also probably saw herself as better than the average individual because of that. The same criticism could be made for all of the high-ranking members of the rebellion. Mon Mothma came from a similar elite family of politicians and was groomed from childhood to become a leader. These kind of individuals lived a sheltered and pampered life, and their political ideologies were passed down like a belief system. Han Solo never had anyone pass down anything to him, and so he formed his own identity, his own name even. He doesn't need to be a general in the rebellion. He doesn't need another group's approval or structure, and that's because he's experienced enough in life to understand himself better than any other organization ever could. So how do you get to really understand yourself? Well, it's usually through hardship and tribulation. It's only during these most extreme moments that our true selves come out. On an average normal day, we're just going through the motions and following whatever rules and laws that society has placed on us. We're not being ourselves in those moments. Han Solo is not afraid of Imperials because he has seen himself escape from their grasp time and time again. He has built confidence in his own abilities. Han Solo ultimately decides to help Luke Skywalker destroy the Death Star, not because he hates the Empire, but because he has a soft spot for rebels and their scrappy underdog vibes. And so he learns that he isn't selfish and that he truly actually cares about other people. Han Solo has lived a lot, and he's learned a lot about himself because of that, and he is truly comfortable in his own skin, and that's why other people look towards him for leadership. You also have individuals like Luke, who spent his first decade and a half in existence in a desert, and then the rest of his life trying to follow some rigid, ancient religious system. Unlike Han, Luke never really had time to think for himself. Even though Luke Skywalker was thrown right into conflict and chaos right after leaving his childhood, he ends up joining the rebellion and adopts their view and structures immediately, before he even understands himself. Then he becomes a Jedi, which honestly was more or less forced upon him, and then he sort of just inherits the future of this entire religious organization, again, without truly understanding who he is. And so ultimately, Luke lets some Force ghosts dictate his path in life instead of actually following his heart, which was to be an awesome pilot and not much more. Because let's be honest, if Luke is truly Anakin's son, then he can't be that complicated. Both Luke and Leia are betrayed by the belief systems they devoted their lives to in the end. Princess Leia becomes a general, and then she becomes a senator in the New Republic. But the very democracy she fought to preserve and protect was turned against her and used to destroy her image and kick her out of politics once and for all. And ultimately, she reverted to her old ways and started another paramilitary organization looking for some evil dictatorship to fight. Ultimately, what did she accomplish? What did Luke accomplish? What did Palpatine accomplish? They fought against each other in numerous conflicts, wiping out trillions in economic value and killing billions of innocent people. The Empire would fail and collapse. The Rebellion's New Republic would fail and collapse, as would the First Order. And for what? Can we truly say that these galactic wars positively affected the cab drivers on Coruscant or the dock workers in Corellia? Ultimately, these conflicts were pointless and set the galaxy back for an entire century. And more importantly, what do organizations like the Empire and Rebellion rely on in order to generate all of this violence? I mean, how do you get one person to kill another person in cold blood? We can justify killing by giving it the label of war, right? Both sides are full of consenting adults who agree to shoot at each other. The Death Star is an evil world-killing machine, the Rebellion says. And so forget about how many innocent Imperial lives are aboard of that giant station. The enemy is the enemy. They are no longer human or sentient beings and therefore need to be destroyed. And organizations maintain this dehumanization of the other side through strict rules and propaganda. The Jedi forbid the study of Sith artifacts and demand their members to fight dark-side users whenever they see them. There's no time to exchange insight on the Force from a different point of view. And most importantly, those who do step out of the line, exhibit independent thinking, are usually crushed or kicked out. Every Imperial Stormtrooper's helmet audio, for instance, was cataloged and monitored by the ISB agents for potential traitors and dissidents. And so when people ask me, hey Alan, what's your favorite faction in Star Wars? Well, as an individual who's made like over 600 videos about Star Wars lore, well, it's clearly Han Solo's lack of faction. That's what I like. Sure, he joins the Empire for a bit and he joins the Rebellion as well for a bit. But ultimately, he's an individual who follows his own moral compass and his own view of the galaxy. He does not allow others to shape his behavior and actions. This is something we should all strive for. Individuals like Han Solo will never kill younglings because his master told him to. Individuals like Han Solo will never stand guard at a place like Auschwitz because that is the job he was given. If we take a look at history, both in Star Wars and in our own, the greatest tragedies are always created by small groups of psychopaths, but perpetuated by large groups of unthinking followers, individuals who are either too lazy to come up with their own opinions or too scared. As individuals, we are powerless. Together, we become strong. But with great power comes a lot of responsibility. And while we temper and limit other human desires and instincts, grouping together, which has caused the majority of pain and suffering in human history, has never been seen as a threat. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.